Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Tuesday edition of Palmetto Sports Daily. We're talking sports here in the Palmetto State. From the coast all the way to the upstate, I'm Rick Henry in Columbia. We're joined today by Carmine Germain in Greenville and Kevin Bilodeau in Charleston. And we're kicking it off today talking a little college baseball. The College Baseball World Series is going on right now in Omaha. And what a showing by the SEC in getting 5 teams to Omaha. So, yeah, 5 SEC teams out of the 8 lucky enough to make it to the World Series. And it makes me long for the good old days of South Carolina baseball when Ray Tanner took the Gamecocks to Omaha 6 times, winning 2 national championships and playing for 2 others. Now, Kevin Schnall is the leader of the Gamecock program, and he is the 4th head coach since Ray Tanner retired from baseball in 2012. The 3 previous coaches not able to get the Gamecocks to Omaha. Now, Kevin Schnall, that is going to be one of his main tasks, not only to get South Carolina to the playoffs, but to get them to the College World Series. And it's not going to be an easy path. I just said you got 5 SEC teams in Omaha. And so the regular season in the Southeastern Conference, it's a bear. It's brutal. And you've got to pile up those wins to bolster your playoff resume so you'll be in position to host a regional or super regional, which makes it an easier path to get to the College World Series. Here's Kevin Schnall about competing in that rugged Southeastern Conference.
Resources, right? The SEC. Last year alone, 107 draft picks, $95 million in the draft, 13 first-rounders. It's the major leagues of college baseball. And if you're competitive, you want to measure yourself against the best, this is the league that you want to be in. And this university, under Jeremiah's direction, is committed at the extreme highest level, and we're excited to compete in this league.
Now, in Kevin Schnall's first year as Coastal Carolina's head coach, 2025, they made it to Omaha. They finished as the runner-up, and he was an assistant on the 2016 Chanticleer team that not only did they make it to Omaha for the first time, but they won the national championship. In both of those years, Coastal racked up more than 50 wins, and a lot of that is because they had great seasons in the Sun Belt Conference. Kevin, how soon do you think Kevin Schnall can produce a 50-plus win season with the Gamecocks?
Well, 50 is going to be tough, especially in that SEC because it's such a balanced conference and it's so tough that I don't know if we're going to see anyone get 50 wins playing an SEC schedule anytime soon. I did want to ask you, Rick, this is the first time we've all been on since Friday, since the introduction of Kevin Schnall. What did you think of the, I guess I would say, over-the-top annex that South Carolina put on to introduce Kevin Schnall into Columbia, having him fly a helicopter onto the field? It was like Ric Flair in the Great American Bash in the 80s. I was just expecting him to have a long flowing robe as he got off that helicopter. I feel like they're setting him up big time, and if he doesn't come through and produce at least a trip to Omaha pretty soon, we're going to look back on that night and just say, what was South Carolina doing with all this?
Kevin, when you've had the 2 seasons that South Carolina's had the past 2 years, you've got to do something. You've got to go in deep into your bag of the tricks to get this fan base re-engaged. And so they needed a little something extra. I think the fans that were there, they really enjoyed it, but not only did they have my man fly in on a helicopter, but they had free concessions, free hot dogs, popcorn, pretzels, soft drinks, candy. You name it, you did have to pay for your own beer. So, but you're right. I mean, there's going to be a lot of pressure on that man because fans aren't going to be happy, hey, just making it to a regional. Then they're going to say, okay, we need to get to a super regional. Get to a super regional. If you don't make it to Omaha, it's like, here we go again, another guy who can't get us back to Omaha. So, yeah, they had to do some stuff, but you're right. He knows what he's getting into, and he knows he's got to win. He's got to win quickly, win big, get this program back to Omaha and compete for another national championship.
Yeah, Rick, I really like what they did. You got to reingratiate the fan base after these two despicable seasons back to back, including the worst season in Gamecocks history this past year. And Kevin Schnall, hey, you might as well pull out all the stops, like you said, with the helicopter, the concessions, maybe some free egg dogs for listeners of the program. Not sure if anybody combined those two food groups at the ceremony there for Kevin Schnall. That might not get this program off on the right foot if they chose to do that. But I think Kevin Schnall will, and I think the standards have been so far lowered because of the past 2 years that even just a trip to the NCAA tournament would be at least trending in the right direction and successful coming off the past 2 years. So I think even though, of course, the storied history of the Gamecocks, like you really eloquently went through, Rick, is very high, based on the past couple seasons, I think the standard has been kind of reset for what success looks like and building that momentum back to a team that could reach the World Series again.
Egg dogs is the only thing they should have been serving the last 2 years. Well, yeah, we're trying to watch that team and just make the fans go through that punishment of eating one of those as you're watching that team on the field.
Yeah, Carmine, you bring out the egg dogs when they start winning again and winning big. Then the fans will buy and eat just about anything. So now is not the time for egg dogs. You want to run the fan base completely out of town? Yeah, serve them up some egg dogs right now.
Oh, yeah, you're right. No, you got to keep it on track for now.
One of the interesting things Schnall said on Friday was he talked about the help he got from Monty Lee as Monty was leaving the program, giving Kevin Schnall kind of an update on all the players and who was coming in and who was going out, and just giving him, kind of a rundown of what he could expect for everyone returning to the team. And apparently that was the last thing Monty Lee did before he left South Carolina permanently, because just on Monday, he was officially introduced as the new associate head coach here in the Low Country back at the College of Charleston. We've been talking for months about Monty's journey all around the state and how he went from an assistant at South Carolina to becoming the head coach at CFC, to the head coach at Clemson, back to an assistant at South Carolina, and now returning to the Low Country one more time to be an assistant under Chad Holbrook at the College of Charleston. And, I would say this has to put them up as one of the better coaching staffs, certainly in the state, if not all of mid-major baseball, having a guy in Chad Holbrook leading this team who's been to the College World Series as an assistant coach at South Carolina, and then having a guy like Monty Lee, a guy who took CFC to a super regional a little more than a decade ago and then went on to be the head coach at Clemson and then be an interim head coach at South Carolina. So a lot of expectations. Monty, we've talked before about what a great recruiter he is in this state. He's already putting together a good recruiting class for CFC in the couple of days he's been here, including bringing Garrett Fulmer, the Citadel catcher. He announced today he's going to cross over the bridge, going to play for CFC next season. So that's a big deal for CFC behind the plate. Monty talked yesterday about coming back home and being a coach once again at the College of Charleston.
I've had my eyes on Monty for about 3 or 4 years, to be told. It's not something that just came from overnight. He's a diehard Cougar. He loves this program. He loves the school. And when this opportunity presented itself, I just felt like it was a no-brainer.
Just a really, really cool experience over the last few days when Chad gave me a call and began the process of talking about coming back to the College of Charleston. It was almost like a dream come true. I go back when he gave me the call and I met with Chad and we started discussing this, like all the great memories of my experiences at the College of Charleston just kind of came running back, and it's kind of an emotional thing, quite honestly.
So really cool to see Monty Lee with that logo on and those colors on one more time, and once again being now an assistant coach at the College of Charleston, and we'll see what goes on in the coming years over for CFC, Carmine.
Yeah, Kevin, great feel-good story coming full circle again. But just, maybe this was mentioned also in my vacation, but was there an opportunity for him to go back to the Gamecocks? I know it would be difficult going from interim head coach back to an assistant again, but was there anything about staying with the Gamecocks, or was there no cutting ties with that and then looking for another opportunity and landing at Charleston?
I don't know, because they came out and said that Monty and the rest of the assistant coaches would not be returning. I don't know if there was an opportunity there once Kevin Schnall was once he was hired, if he would have retained Monty. So I don't know, but I'm personally, I'm happy to see him staying within the state. And you're right, Kevin. Talk about a super force there when it comes to recruiting here in South Carolina. There's so many good high school players here. And when you got two guys like that, they may not win all the recruiting battles with South Carolina and Clemson, but they'll have a good shot. So I'm just glad to see him get back to the College of Charleston, and we'll have a chance to talk about him and cover him for years to come.
Yeah, really excited about that. And, you know, with the Citadel coming off that trip to the NCAA tournament, and now CFC has some momentum as well with this coaching addition to their staff, it's going to make for some really fun matchups. And CSU also had one of their better seasons last year as well. So baseball in the Low Country really taking a turn over this last year. We're just getting going here on Palmetto Sports Daily. We'll be back right after this. Welcome back into Palmetto Sports Daily. Now, we had our two biggest coaching vacancies in the state filled last week as Kevin Schnall went to South Carolina, Chris Lamonis went to Coastal Carolina. That left the other one here in the Low Country in a completely different sport, but in hockey, the South Carolina Stingrays finally finding their new head coach today. They made the announcement earlier this morning. They're hiring Jesse Kalecki as the new head coach of the Stingrays. And kind of an interesting situation. Kalecki has been the head coach of the Fort Wayne Comets for the last 3 seasons after coming over as an assistant from Florida. And late last week, it was announced that he was leaving Fort Wayne, decided he wasn't going to renew his contract there. He was going to become a free agent. Talked to him this afternoon. He said he didn't really know what was next for him, but shortly after he made the decision to not return to Fort Wayne, got a call from Stingrays president Rob Concannon. Concannon talked to him about the head coaching vacancy with the Stingrays, and he decided that taking over this program, a franchise that currently has 3 former head coaches that are head coaches now in the NHL, and also getting the chance to move down to Charleston was something that he just couldn't pass up. So as of this morning, he is now the new head coach of the South Carolina Stingrays. So it's not something we see too often where a coach from one team just moves over to another team in the same ECHL. But that's what we've got today, and he's a guy who took his team to the Western Conference Finals a year ago and won a division championship. And like I said, he was an assistant coach at Florida before that, a Florida team that just won their 4th Kelly Cup championship in the last 5 years. So he knows about a winning program, and very excited to see what he's going to bring to the South Carolina Stingrays coming up in the next few years.
Kevin, how old is Coach Kalecki? He looks rather young.
He's a young guy. I didn't get to see his birth certificate when I talked to him this afternoon, but I'm thinking later 30s a little bit.
Okay, so what's the mood there in Charleston about this new guy? I mean, is there a lot of optimism, or people are kind of in the, well, we'll just wait and see?
Little of both. I mean, the biggest problem the Stingrays have had the last few years is their lack of being a cohesive unit, really, especially with the head coaching position. They've had so many guys come in and out the last several years. The last couple have been just one and done. Jared Nightingale a couple years ago led the Stingrays to the best record in the league during the regular season, but he did so well that even though that was his first job as a head coach anywhere in pro hockey, just after 1 year, he got a job in the AHL. So that kind of hurt them a little bit. And then bringing in David Warsofsky last year, it really looked like he was going to be a guy who was going to stick around for a couple of years. But after just 1 season, he decided that coaching really wasn't what he wanted to do either. He wanted to be more on the player development side. So he leaves after just a year. So I talked about trying to get the cohesiveness a little bit more with that head coaching spot. And Jesse said that's something he's hoping to do in the Low Country here over the next couple of years. So hopefully that works out a little bit better for the Stingrays than the last couple have. Over now to college wrestling, and we're going to have the return of one of the better probably events, I'd say anywhere in the state, as we find out today that the Citadel announces that the 3rd annual wrestling event on the Yorktown is going to be held coming up in November. Now, we mentioned last year when this was happening, the Bulldogs are going to host matches on the World War II ship right there. And you see this was last year's event. And after the first year, that's when we really had problems, as they held the matches at night. I believe it was on a Thursday night. And the condensation at that time of the year, once the sun goes down, really made it difficult for the guys to wrestle on the mat. They got in just a couple of matches before they had to call the whole thing off because of the condensation on the mat, and they just weren't able to keep things dry. This past year in 2025, they changed things up a little bit. They did the event on a Saturday and a Sunday and did it during the afternoon, and it really worked out well. It was homecoming for the Citadel. They had a home football game. I believe it was against Wofford. But before the football game started, they started the wrestling matches here in the morning. So just certainly one of the most picturesque events anywhere in South Carolina or anywhere in college sports, really, to see the guys wrestling over on the USS Yorktown. And here you see just some of the amazing shots they got as wrestling was going on this past November on the Yorktown.
Yeah, Kevin, what a special venue there, able to compete on a World War II ship and with these military academies, the Citadel. I also saw Air Force being scored there. And I just got back from Ireland recently, and I was on a boat replica that was used to take Irish immigrants over during the Irish potato famine. And you really just get a strong feeling being there. But like when you're covering that, what's the feeling of patriotism and just American pride and nostalgia that you get from seeing these military academies compete on a military ship?
Yeah, it's really cool to see the wrestlers themselves, kind of get a sense of what they're being part of it. Like you said, just the patriotism they get to see from being just on this ship and having such a good time. And like I said, the visuals you get to see and just coming down from the bridge and especially, I mentioned the first one a couple years ago, you got to see the sunset over the bridge and over the ship as the wrestling matches were going on. So it's one of the more special events we've had here in the Lowcountry in the last decade or so. So very excited that that's coming back this coming November. We've got more to come here on Palmetto Sports Daily. We'll be back right after this.
Welcome back to Palmetto Sports Daily, and we celebrated 2 championships recently. For those in the Carolinas, it was the Carolina Hurricanes and the Stanley Cup. For me, a native New Yorker, you can see my not-so-subtle polo shirt here to celebrate. It was the New York Knicks winning their 3rd championship in NBA history and their first in 53 years, beating the San Antonio Spurs 4-1. But they could have easily lost this series 4-1. That was kind of the crazy part of it. Down double digits in all 5 of these games in the first quarter. They didn't exactly get off to hot starts. They had one of the most epic comebacks in any sport ever that we'll remember for the rest of our lives in that Game 4, down 29 points, the largest finals comeback ever. Here you see the reaction right in New York City to the Knicks winning the championship. I'm from just an hour north of New York City, Westchester County, New York, Ossining, home of Sing Sing Prison, and I nearly needed to be locked up in there the way I was celebrating after the championship as well. But I was actually it was great to see how this brought the city and really the country together. I mean, look at all the different races, creeds, nationalities, religions that are pictured in these celebratory videos. Just a unifying moment for the Knicks and for sports in general in the entire country. Everybody got behind this team because it's the #1 market, underdog story for all these comebacks. And I was going through the airports, going to a wedding in St. Louis with my Knicks stuff on. Everybody was, several people, fist bumps, cheers. I was wearing my Knicks jersey on a Costco run yesterday. Fist bumps, high fives. How about those Knicks? One lady even honked at me to cheer in a very busy Costco parking lot. But guys, an incredible moment for us New Yorkers and really most of the country that hopped on the Knicks bandwagon and celebrated such a historic moment. Is he not listening? Oh
okay.
my gosh. Why is he so upset, Rick? Why is he upset?
I couldn't listen to any of that.
Well, he's a Boston fan, so he's going to be a hater. Carmine, I got to ask you. You said You should have been locked up the way you were celebrating. What in the world were you doing? I need some info
No, I was really just boogieing on the dance floor. It was during the wedding that I was at, and a bunch of people were watching at the same time, and we were all celebrating. People got me as the token Nick fan, so they were, high-fiving, and no, just a few drinks at the Anheuser-Busch factory and some FaceTimes with friends. Nothing too crazy.
Okay, I understand now. You on the dance floor. Yep, you probably broke some laws right there. Glad there's no video of that. But I'm real happy for you, Carmine. I mean, a 53-year drought is over. I'm glad that you finally got to see your team win it all. All right, Producer Nick, are we done?
Thank you.
We need a break? All right, we need a break, so we'll be right back. Welcome back to Palmetto Sports Daily, and we've got a really big treat for you on the right here on the Palmetto Sports and Entertainment Network. The South Carolina Athletic Hall of Fame banquet, which took place in May, is going to be aired right here on the station that you're watching us right now. It's going to take place Sunday, June 21st at 8 p.m. And there you see some video from the induction ceremony. Now, a lot of people think when they hear South Carolina Athletic Hall of Fame that we're talking about the University of South Carolina. No, this is the statewide Hall of Fame. You see Steve Spurrier. He's one of the inductees this year. And the head ball coach says what he likes about the South Carolina Athletic Hall of Fame is not for just football. You have women also included, Olympians, basketball, tennis, golf. It's one of the better events in the state. So, yeah, make a note of it. Sunday, 8 p.m., right here on the Palmetto Sports and Entertainment Network. That's going to wrap it up for this edition of PSD. Have a great evening, everyone.